What is the all-time high in the bear market ends?
Wow. So I
in
think
a
it's
year and
going
a
to
half?
take a little while. I think there's a lot of damage done in the crypto markets. The biggest thing again is going to be clarity through regulation, which will draw big money back in. I think it's going to take a few years, maybe into 2026, 2027. But I think the next bull market run will be, and let me show my chart here because and again, this is going to make it really tough to predict. But wherever, see this trend line here? Wherever that is when price goes up there, maybe that's the target. So right now, I mean, right here, it's at 70 something thousand, but in 3 years, heck, this could be at 100, 150,000. I think that'll makes sense if you connect that trend line that could be where things are headed.
Popular technical analyst and veteran trader Gareth Soloway has updated his all-time high prediction for Bitcoin as the crypto market prepares for another 12 months of uncertainties. In a recent interview with CryptoWendyO, Soloway and two other guests discussed their outlook for Bitcoin, Solana, and the overall cryptocurrency market in 2023 and beyond. Like every other Bitcoin investor and analyst, Soloway is bullish on Bitcoin in the long term. He sees the leading crypto hitting the coveted six figures during the next bull run. However, Soloway believes the next Bitcoin bull cycle might be farther than many predict. Though he predicts the asset will bottom sometime within the next 6 months, he is positive that we might not get that massive bull run until 2026. Soloway also discusses his outlook on Solana, which he says he has been nibbling on since it got caught in the whole FTX Alameda research debacle. Before we listen to Soloway's outlook on Bitcoin, Solana, and his thoughts on Sam Bankman-Fried's trial, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Also, ensure you drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything helps with the YouTube algorithm, so we can continue to bring you these videos. Thanks and enjoy the video.
So basically, the biggest thing that I'm keeping an eye on here is there's a couple positives and negatives, right? So the big thing here is your FTX collapse drop. That so far price is staying in the lower range of that drop. As long as price stays in that lower range, it creates what's called a bear flag, or in spirit of bear flag. And as the name suggests, it is overall bearish. So in general, I'm kind of in the camp that we're probably headed a little bit lower. I have some levels down here around 13,000, give or take a little bit, that I think eventually will break through. The big spot is going to be the low here, right? The FTX collapse low around 15,700. If we take that out, that's where the next leg lower probably kicks in. On the positive side, so always like to kind of talk about a little bit of a positive here. I think we are towards the end of the Bitcoin bear market, meaning that in the next 6 months, I'm anticipating a bottom. The reason I say that is there's some signals coming up here. Like if you look at the Terra Luna collapse, Bitcoin lost 45% of its value. With FTX, which was arguably a much bigger collapse for the crypto markets, Bitcoin only lost 25%. So you see this kind of ability for Bitcoin to almost shrug off a little bit of the negativity there. And I think that's usually a sign that we're getting closer to the bottom. And so the only other thing I would say here on the charts that I'm kind of keeping an eye on is that on the bullish side, let's say we don't break down, what would be a trigger for me to maybe start getting bullish? And that trigger would be if price could trade above the FTX collapse. Just on a psychological basis, that high right now is really powerful because it represented this major catastrophe within the crypto markets. So if price were able to get above that, I think that's where you'd have to say, okay, wait, maybe we do have a bottom already. Until that happens, I'm kind of on the sidelines.
All right, let's get into FTX now. So FTX crypto worth 3.5 billion was held by Bahama regulator. So Gareth, give us your thoughts on this, like as a trader.
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I don't think I think it seems like he's getting a slap on the wrist because the law works slowly. But I think it's important for us to recognize, like, you go back to past fraud cases like Bernie Madoff, which was like massive billions and billions of dollars, much like this, frankly. The prosecutors, their job isn't to like put up little updates on Twitter like, we all want, right? They're to build this hardcore case that when they go in front of a judge, it's going to be like a slam dunk conviction. And I don't think they want to necessarily let out of the bag a lot of the little inside things that can be detrimental in the court of law because they don't want to give his lawyers an opportunity to necessarily figure out how to rebut it too. So I think, honestly, I think he's going to be going away for 10 to 20 years at minimum. I think it'll turn out to be a pretty hefty situation. I think the only possibility of, or only positive could be for him is that it's seeming like there's a lot of money still there. It's just, he put it in like real estate. He put it here. So the possibility maybe investors get a good chunk of it back would be the positive of it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to, I think they're going to use this as a big example, like to send a shockwave through the crypto markets. Like if you're going to do this, you're going to get punished just the same as if you're doing fraud in the stock market or anywhere else.
Grant, do you think with his ties to political leaders, do you think he's going to get away with it? Because I don't know. It's
Well,
like, what is, and
Christopher said, like, what can they hold over him? I mean, if we get conspiratorial, there's a lot of talk about, was there money funneling through Ukraine, right? And isn't Solana based in Ukraine? But yeah, I mean, so maybe there's something there where there's going to be a reason to keep him quiet and just not want to have the actual case. Just plead to something, get him in jail, and try to get it behind you.
Whether the higher power will try to sweep the case under the rug remains to be seen. But according to reports, SBF, the former chief executive of FTX, has requested that the identities of the two other co-signers of his $250 million bond be kept secret. More on that later in the video. In his interview with CryptoWendy, Soloway discusses his outlook on Solana. After it was caught at the forefront of the FTX collapse in November, the public blockchain platform has been hit with myriad bad news. It has lost its place in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap, and several projects have exited the ecosystem. However, it recently received some hype from Ether blockchain co-founder Vitalik Buterin. Here's what Buterin had to say about Solana, ironically once touted as an Ether killer. Some smart people tell me there is an earnest, smart developer community in Solana, and now that the awful opportunistic money people have been washed out, the chain has a bright future. Hard for me to tell from the outside, but I hope the community gets its fair chance to thrive. Following Buterin's tweet, the token jumped from a record low of $8 to around $10 per unit. On Tuesday, it surged further to around $13 after newly launched Shiba Inu-themed token Bonk carried out a large airdrop. The airdrop amounts to 50% of the total Bonk token supply, 20% of which went to Solana FT collections and 10% to Solana-focused artists and collectors. Here's what Soloway has to say about investing in Solana.
I actually nibbled a little bit. I'll be honest. Yeah, I did. And again, it's a very kind of keen risk reward thought process, meaning that when you go into something like this, you don't put a lot of money involved, but there's a lot of potential reward. So buying it down in this range, to me, it's like, okay, I'm going to only put 1% of my portfolio in it. If it goes to zero, I lose 1%. If it survives, and ultimately, if it survives, it probably thrives. This could be an easy 10x, 20x, 30x scenario over the next couple of years. So I think, it's one of those things where you have to really just think about how much you're willing to lose and then take that shot if you're okay with it.
After the bear market, where does it go?
yep, all-time high, top.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, just give me a number.
I think 120,000. I think
Okay.
the bigger the pumps are going to start getting progressively smaller over time.
Okay. Christopher?
Oh man, yeah, I'm not big on predictions, but I think if we're getting another one, I think we're definitely popping over 100,000. I've got a minimal around 150, 160, but I've got a couple of other scenarios where we could see it potentially, reaching 450,000, and a lot of that just depends on where exactly we are at the second. So yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Gareth, what is the all-time high in the bear market ends?
Wow. So I think it's going to take a little while. I think there's a lot of damage done in the crypto markets. The biggest thing, again, is going to be clarity through regulation, which will draw big money back in. I think it's going to take a few years, maybe into 2026, 2027. But I think the next bull market run will be, and let me show my chart here, because and again, this is going to make it really tough to predict, but see this trend line here? Wherever that is when price goes up there, maybe that's the target. So right now, I mean, right here, it's at 70 something thousand, but in 3 years, heck, this could be at 100, 150,000. I think makes sense if you connect that trend line, that could be where things are headed.
As stated earlier, SBF's lawyers filed a letter on Tuesday asking the court to redact the names of the two people who intend to sign as sureties for his bail. SBF and his lawyers believe there is no need for the names of these two individuals, one family member and one non-family member, to be revealed publicly. Here is a statement from the disgraced former billionaire's lawyers. If the two remaining sureties are publicly identified, they will likely be subjected to probing media scrutiny and potentially targeted for harassment, despite having no substantive connection to the case. Consequently, the privacy and safety of the sureties are countervailing factors that significantly outweigh the presumption of public access to the very limited information at issue. Last month, we brought you detailed reports of SBF's $250 million bail package. The personal recognizance bond has been secured by the equity in his parents' Palo Alto home, which is only worth around $4 million, according to reports. This means that the other sureties will have to raise the remaining $21 million if the 30-year-old decides to jump bail. Though such requests are not unusual for high-profile cases like this, there are many speculations about the identities of these individuals, especially considering SBF's connection with politicians and regulators in the U.S. What are your thoughts on Gareth Soloway's interview, Buterin's tweet about Solana, and the recent developments in SBF's trial? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.